In this episode, we discuss the firing of Montreal Canadiens head coach Claude Julien and Kirk Muller, St. Louis Blues goaltender Jordan Binnington having a temper tantrum on the ice, and what the Blues and Habs could offer the Buffalo Sabres for Jack Eichel. In Team ISO, we delve deep into the Anaheim Ducks, how well Trevor Zegras and Max Comtois have been playing, and could the greatest Duck of all time, Ryan Getzlaf, get traded? Hit the music. Welcome to Jablam Sports Hockey, folks. I'm your host, Peter Borjaranov, and the mic is always on. You can find me on Twitter at Russia98. You can find the full show at Jablam Sports. If you have any questions or comments, please tweet us. Use the hashtag Jablam Sports. That's JABLAM Sports. Please subscribe to us if you haven't done so yet, and click on the three dots in your podcasting app. Share our show with three hockey fans you know. Thank you, everyone. Remember, check out our website. Go to jablamsports.com. See all our podcasts and even game notes for each episode. You'll get links to all the things we mentioned on this show, including guests. For our podcasts, click on podcasts and then hockey on this show specifically right on our website. Time for some Trending Now. Our guests this week for Trending Now on the round table are Laura Astorian. She's the site manager at St. Louis Game Time. Of course, we'll put everything on our game notes, and that's stlouisgametime.com. You can find her on Twitter at HildyMac. And Ian Boivert. He's the deputy editor at Rabid Habs and, of course, a part of the Nosebleeds cast. You can find him on Twitter at Maybe It's Ian. Welcome back to the show, friends.
Hey, how are you?
I'm pretty good.
Good to be here, Peter.
Yeah, we're all here, and we will talk about the Jack Eichel rumors and touch base upon that at the end of talking both about our markets that you guys are covering. Laura, on the weekend, the Blues had a perfect, I would say, an 80s style throwback game with the Sharks.
Oh boy, yeah.
A 7-6 was the final outcome, and it's been tough, I guess, because the Blues haven't been playing as well as they wanted to lately, and the frustration really showed apart and was evident with Jordan Binnington. I guess he looked like he was getting pulled, and then he circles back, gives Simic a shove on the Sharks. Then he goes and skates by and gives a fake punch to Erik Karlsson as he skates by. And right before he leaves the ice surface, he has to go and throw his glove at opposing goaltender Devan Dubnyk, kind of asking for a fight before the referees can kind of get in the way. But it looks like we've kind of seen this before from him, right? During the playoffs, I guess, a couple years ago, too, between the Dallas Stars, he attacked Jamie Benn in Game 4, I believe it was, and then also skated down the ice and slashed Ben Bishop. So, what's going on with him? I guess sometimes he's a very, very focused kind of goaltender, but sometimes it looks like he can lose his cool. I know I don't mind it when you're trying to get the team off the edge or whatever, and you're kind of enraged, but it seems like he's kind of attacking players who aren't even asking for it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, he's got a temper on him, and I mean, like, I usually don't like mine, like, you know, I mean, I get being frustrated, and I also get the goalies are just weird, but, like, he plays better when he doesn't let stuff bother him. I just don't take it as a super good sign when, you know, he's getting pulled, and that's what he does on the way off the ice. You know, what made it so special in 2019 is, you know, that whole playoff run, or honestly that whole run, that second half of the season, like, it felt like nothing ruffled his feathers. Mm-hmm. When I see him do something like that, it kind of makes me raise an eyebrow, like, you know, with something like, you know, what does that mean? Like, why is he being so unfocused? And I mean, and I'm glad the Sharks, for the most part, kind of took it in stride. I think Devan Dubnyk said he pretty much told Binnington, just get off the ice. Mm-hmm. But, like, it looked so bad. And I'm like, you know, I would really much rather have the team play well in response to a stretch of bad play than to pull shenanigans like that. Because I mean, I'm glad they won that game. That game was one of the weirdest games I've ever watched.
With that and the run that they had in of course 2 years ago they won the cup, and he came out of nowhere. The team had his back. Monday night, Ville Husso played. So does the team have his back as much, especially with him not being as spectacular as he was that season?
Like, Husso played pretty well in relief on Saturday night. And it looked like he was playing pretty well. Like, I'm not going to lie, I did go to bed early last night. I'm being on the East Coast, I can't stay up late for the West Coast games. I'm just too old. But I mean, like, from what I saw, he looked like he played generally pretty well last night. I mean, until like the third period, and the Blues, I guess, forgot to start playing defense. But he's been okay. I mean, we don't have a goalie controversy in St. Louis. Let's just put it that way.
So they've still got Binnington's back then.
Oh yeah. I mean, like, the guys from what I was reading really said that whatever it was that he did, kind of lit a fire under him. So I can't argue with that. But at least it lit a fire under him instead of, the opposite.
In Montreal, they had head coach fired. That's Claude Julien and Kirk Muller after losing 5 of 6 games, and 2 of them in overtime to the basement-dwelling Ottawa Senators. Ian, was this a move pretty much everybody was waiting for, to bring in Dominic Ducharme, who coached the Halifax Mooseheads to a Memorial Cup win in 2013, with, of course, Jonathan Drouin nonetheless?
Yeah, I think it was about time. I've been a staunch defender of Claude Julien, especially over the last few seasons where things haven't really been going his way, despite, the process being positive. The results just haven't been there for him. They wouldn't have made the playoffs last year had it not been for the bubble and, them wanting to get larger TV markets into that bubble. Mm-hmm. I think Claude Julien's a good coach. He's a tremendous person. We know that from, his interactions within the Montreal media. That media can make or break people, and it seems that he handled it with class. Ever since he showed up on Valentine's Day a few years ago. But I think it's just that this team needs to go in a different direction. I think they're a young team. The league around them is changing. I think it's pretty similar to what Toronto did last season when they fired Babcock and they called up Sheldon Keefe to be in charge of the main team. It's more, Ducharme was brought in to be the head coach in waiting. We all know he was going to be the next head coach. So it was a shock in the sense that I didn't think Claude Julien was going to get fired mid-season. I thought that they'd probably play it out, but obviously Marc Bergevin thinks that this team needs to start pushing things in the right direction, or it might be him on the chopping block next.
I feel the same way with you with the whole Babcock versus Sheldon Keefe scenario. Same thing going on with Montreal. But the Habs now have lost 2 more losses under Ducharme. Can this team turn around and be strong going into playoff time?
Yeah, I think this is Marc Bergevin's big bet, right? Is that he thinks that Ducharme is going to be the guy to turn this around. And I don't really disagree with him. I think, what we've seen from the team in the few games since Ducharme took over has been positive, again, in process, but negative in result. They keep dropping games, which is unfortunate, especially in a division where every game is a 4-point game. But I don't think the main issues here are going to come from the head coach fixing them. I think the biggest problems for the Canadiens are special teams. Their power play is sitting under 19%. It needs to be better. And their penalty kill is 76%. That's nowhere near good enough, especially in a league where Toronto can score in 30% of their power plays. Edmonton can score on 30% of their power plays. Like, it's not, the Canadiens are one of the best, if not the best team at 5-on-5 in that division. It's the special teams that kill them. And, one thing that I wrote for Rabid Habs recently was that they need to start treating overtime and 3-on-3 and 4-on-4 like a special team. It's something that the Canadiens try to treat like 5-on-5, sending Phil Deneau out in the first shift in overtime to try to shut down the other team in 3-on-3. It doesn't work. We've seen it not work, whether it's Phil Deneau taking it or back when 3-on-3 first started, it was Thomas Plekanec who was stepping out onto the ice. I think that there's an organizational philosophy that needs to help push this team into the future, relying way too much on, conventional wisdom of the past of having a shutdown guy go out there and shut down a top line. But 3-on-3 isn't that beast. Teams are getting more creative on the power play. You need to find ways to handle that. That's why Kirk Muller's gone. He could not turn that power play around. It's very one-dimensional. If you watch a Canadiens game and you're looking for where they're going to shoot the puck on the power play, it's coming from number 6, from essentially where Ovechkin shoots the puck. That's their only option. And it's just not, it hasn't been good enough. It hasn't been good enough for years. And, Bergevin finally made that move. So that's where their improvements come from, I think, is special teams. Keep doing what you're doing at 5-on-5. Most fans will agree, that's where they're going to win most of their games, but where they're losing their games is on special teams.
Yes, for some reason the Leafs have found the magic potion on that, even with Matthews out of the lineup. I don't know how they're doing it, but I guess they have enough weapons. Laura, there's been the rumors with Jack Eichel in Buffalo, especially after being scratched. What would a package with the Blues take to make another steal from the Sabres like they've done in the past with Ryan O'Reilly?
Oh, gosh. I don't know if Buffalo would fall for that again. Although I did see the other night, I think they were actually playing Tage Thompson. So that was a surprise. Poor Buffalo. Honestly, if it were up to Blues fans and Doug Armstrong, and if we could get the same kind of deal as we got last time, that would probably be one of the rare times I think the Blues fans wouldn't be kind of cranky at Armstrong for trading a high draft pick. Most fans, I think, would really like to see probably another fleecing. And they would probably really love to include Vince Dunn and Zach Sanford in on something. I don't think Buffalo would go for that. Even though Zach Sanford's on a little bit of a tear. He's been he doubled his goal total, I think, in the last 2 games. But I would do that. And gosh, I hate trading away any of our prospects because they're all playing for us right now. Half the taxi squad's up. I think doing that and probably a high pick would be something that, I think that Doug Armstrong would toss out there. I think that they would require more, though, and I really think that it would probably include somebody at the very least like Sammy Blake or Robert Thomas. And I don't think that Armstrong would let Thomas go if he were healthy. He's got the broken thumb. I don't think, though, that Thomas would go. I think that packaging Blay in on that, though, would probably sweeten the pot a little bit. But I just don't think that that Buffalo wants to trade with us for some reason right now.
Yeah, I don't think they would, with that history. Ian, this could be a great move for the Habs, maybe adding a young superstar to go with that young core that they have right now. What could make that work in Montreal?
Yeah, I feel like it's Groundhog Day. I feel like we just did this with Pierre-Luc Dubois out of Columbus, right? Young center, and he was even from Montreal, and of course that gets everybody whipped into a frenzy. But I'll preface this by saying that I don't think that there's anything that I would be willing to part with that Buffalo would want. And I know it's the cop-out answer because it probably is something like Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, a first plus. That's where it starts, right? Cole Caulfield is absolutely dominating the NCAA right now. I think he's up to 22 goals as I say this. And Nick Suzuki is blossoming into a really potent top 6 center who can play both ends of the ice. That's something that Buffalo would die for. And they're trading away a second overall pick in Eichel, who would have gone first in any other draft year, if we're being honest. The only reason he's a 2 is because the guy that went in front of him was a generational talent. I think that if you're Buffalo and you're calling up Marc Bergevin, it starts with Suzuki Caulfield, a first plus. And if I'm Marc Bergevin, I say no merci and hang up the phone. That's where that conversation begins and ends.
Oh my God. And that leaves us with the end of this segment. Merci and goodbye to both of you. You can find them both on Twitter at maybe it's Ian for Ian and at Hildy Mac for Laura. Thank you again, both of you, for joining me.
Thank you.
You bet. Thanks, Pete.
Let's go to Orange County. We're team ISOing the Anaheim Ducks with 2 guests helping us ISO the Quack Pack. First up, CJ Woodling. He covers the Anaheim Ducks at Crash the Pond. Of course, crashthepond.com. And you can get all the links and everything we talk about on our game notes page for this episode. I believe it's episode of season 6. Season 6, yeah. Episode 12 now. And CJ, you can find him on Twitter at CJ Woodling, and Jason Hernandez. He's the host of Locked On Ducks. You can find him on Twitter at StimpyJD. Jason, what kind of handle is that? Come on.
All right, so Stimpy was my childhood nickname from Ren and Stimpy, my favorite Nicktoon of all time. You guys can say, "Hey Arnold," Rugrats, Doug. No, it's Ren and Stimpy.
CJ, what was your favorite cartoon or anything growing up?
My favorite cartoon actually growing up was Dexter's Lab. I had a little bit of that nerdy side to me. I loved Dexter's Lab and all the science and machines that he created, and of course, constantly chasing Dee Dee out of his laboratory. So, love me some Dexter.
Oh, man, I think I'm a few years older than you guys, so I do love my Thundercats, Lino, and Tiger, and the rest of them. I wish there was a movie. They tried to remake it. They've tried to remake it twice. A few years ago, it was not bad because they had a Game of Thrones thing going on. But most recently on the Cartoon Network, they did this really poor job. It was awful. Thundercats Roar, I think it was, the worst. So let's just go straight into talking some Ducks. Oh my goodness. Trevor Zegras. He was fantastic at the World Juniors.
Zegras.
You guys are saying Zegras? I've been saying Zegras this whole time.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. So I better start saying that properly.
It's a Canadian.
Yeah. Must be. I think mine.
It's the Z and the Z, so it's fine.
Yeah, Zegras. All right. I'll do it just for this interview. I'll call him Zegras. All right. So he was
just to annoy.
That's like saying zebra and zebra.
Respect.
So they brought him up a couple games ago, and oh my goodness, it's only 4 games into your career, kid, and you're trying to pull off the Michigan? You gotta be kidding me, rookie! Pulling off one of the most uber "look what I can do" moves this early in his career. What kind of cojones does this kid have, Jason?
It's not his first time he's tried this. He tried this in San Diego 4 weeks ago against the Bakersfield Condors, where he attempted the Michigan, couldn't do it. Then he faked the Michigan. I don't care what anyone says that he attempted the second time. No, that was a fake. Mm-hmm. And then had that sweet apple at the end. So he's tried it before.
Wow, that's ridiculous. Well, like I thought, in the NHL, for sure. That's ridiculous. 4th game in, and you're trying that. What did you think, CJ?
I loved it. I love this new wave of younger players trying this. Obviously, Svechnikov has pulled it off a couple times, couple other players as well. And watching Zegras try this for his first move, as you said, the absolute cojones on this kid. And that's one of the reasons I think that move right there kind of is the perfect encapsulation of why so many Ducks fans are so excited for him and why there's so much hype, is that the Ducks have never had they haven't had this creative or this exciting of a prospect, arguably since Paul Kariya. Like, it's been that long, and he's just so electric. This team has not had a whole lot of players that are really willing to be creative and try something new out of the box. And Zegras doing this right out of the gate in his career, just kind of completely busts open that mold. So it was great to see.
You did even mention in the article I was going to bring up, and that's going to be on their game notes as well, that he is the most game-breaking player since Bobby Ryan. Now you're saying Paul Kariya. Mm-hmm. So the level keeps on going higher every game he plays, it seems like. What is his most game-breaking talent, other than, of course, trying in Michigan?
Ooh. It's easily going to be his vision. Mm-hmm. They'll say his passing, and yes, his passing is amazing, but there's a whole thing where I think they interviewed before he was drafted, they interviewed Jack Hughes, who obviously played. They played on the same power play unit for the U.S. Development team. And Hughes basically said that if you're on the ice with Trevor Zegras, you have to have your stick down on the ice at all times and be paying attention, because he basically said, you may think there's absolutely no way that a puck's going to be able to get to you based on coverage, based on where you're on the ice. And Zegras is going to make you rethink that he's going to get the puck to you and you need to be ready at any point. So his vision and his ability to read a play is absolutely elite. It's one of the best I've seen of any prospects, even after even first overall picks in recent years. It's just absolutely insane how this kid is able to read plays and how he can seemingly find open lanes that seem impossible to everybody else.
Vision's going to be very important, because last time I checked, they're fourth in the league, at the bottom, of course, fourth last in the league, second last in goal scoring, third last on the power play, clicking at only 11%. Like, what's going on there? Like, Henrique, Raquel, Getzlaf, none of them have even 3 goals yet, Jason. What's going on?
I don't know if I like the lines that Eakins is putting out there on the power plays. I don't know if, CJ, you agree with me, but they need to at least shift that first line maybe to the second line. There was a message sent last night when you had, for some reason, Derek Grant out there on the end of a power play at the end of the, I want to say, second period. Eakins, yeah, you're shaking your head. Eakins was sending a message loud and clear there that some of these guys are not performing up to their ability at all. So I don't know if it's a matter of maybe put Cam Fowler in that first power play unit, see how that works, or maybe put Yanni Hakanpää. He tried Hakanpää for all of 28 seconds. Why not try him? He's been better than we've thought. And he looked good in the power play last season in San Diego. In fact, San Diego was one of the best teams as far as special teams last season. One of the top in power plays. One of the best teams in penalty kill. And Hakanpää was out there for a lot of that. So, hey, why not? Throw crap on the wall. See what sticks.
Sorry, I was just going to add on to that really quick, where I was just going to say I do agree for the most part. And my colleague at Crash the Pond, Felix Sicard, actually tweeted this last night during the game, where he tweeted about how like Grant was getting power play time. I even think Nick Delorier has been getting some power play time, which is absolutely ridiculous. But to send a message, and the problem is that all Eakins has been doing this season and last season for that matter is send a message. And there's a certain point where if you keep doing this and you keep trying to send the messages, clearly it's either not working. B, what I tend to think is that you're asking way too much of your players to do what they're going to do. And so it's a matter of just icing the best possible lineup, even if players like Henrique, Silfverberg, Raquel aren't necessarily performing or executing it the way we're historically go to. You're not going to get them going by scratching them for even worse players like Grant or Delorier. And so just, we're trying to wrap our head around that. But relating it back to the whole Trevor Zegras thing is that, like, having Zegras, and if you've watched him since he's been on the power play, he instantly completely overhauls the complexion of the line. All the offense runs through him. And finally, at least for the time being, assuming he stays up, the Ducks actually have a legitimate power play, that somebody who can actually bank goals in off of even somebody like a Grant or Delorier if you are going to throw him on the power play.
Right. And even to piggyback further on what you said earlier, CJ, one other thing that I like Zegras on the power play, not only the passing ability, which everyone says, but something that he does effectively is create space not only for himself, but for his teammates, is he will handle the puck for about 10, 12, as long as 15 seconds. Something that he was developing a lot out in Boston is the ability to make space for himself, get around to that point area where he can be all by himself. There's maybe 20 feet of space around him where he can make the pass or where he can make the shot. That's another aspect of his game that doesn't get talked about enough, is his skating ability and creating space.
I'm glad you mentioned in terms of you need the top talent to keep trying out there, and you don't want Delorier on there. I know I had the same problem when I was trying to watch the Flyers in the playoffs, and I'm like, why isn't JVR on the power play? This makes no sense. And now you're making him sit. Then look what happens now when they put JVR on the first power play this season. Mm-hmm. He's exploding, which makes sense when you have a talented player. Yeah, some of them go through goal scoring slumps, but you need to keep at it and keep them there. Oh my goodness. Yanni Hakanpää, you mentioned, Jason. I've never really heard of him. Of course, I'm not on the West Coast. I'm on the East Coast. We don't follow the West Coast over here, right? But he looks fantastic from what I've seen so far. The 6'5" Finnish defenseman, leading, of course, as well with plus-minus ice time on the PK, third on the team in total ice time. Where does he come out from? He's been fantastic.
He's worked really hard at his craft for maybe the last 4 or 5 seasons. He spent some time in Europe. Last year in San Diego, Kevin Dineen sang his praises the whole season, saying he's one of the hardest workers that he's ever seen coaching-wise. And it really paid off last season. I mean, the goals were on their way to a deep run in the playoffs. And this is not talked about. He led the league almost in minutes played for a while there in the American Hockey League. And it's something that's translated as much in the National Hockey League, where we talk about his speed, his strength. He's also really good at quarterbacking power plays, which I would like to see more of. CJ, I don't know about you, but would you like to see Hakanpää maybe on a second power play unit at some point, or more 6-on-4?
Let's put it this way. I think he's earned it. Going into this season, I would have been like, stay away. And here's a Hakanpää earned his. I'm sorry if that's an insult to dumpster fires, but that is a situation where, there really just hasn't been a whole lot of production on that. Now, with that being said, Hakanpää has certainly earned the spot. He's risen to the occasion. He's leading the Ducks of all skaters in evolving hockey's goals above replacement metric. And I do believe that, I think he would be good on a second power play unit. I don't necessarily agree if he should necessarily be a quarterback, but he has shown some good offensive instincts. And I can definitely see him being a supporting piece on the blue line for a second unit on the power play. At a bare minimum, his play so far this season has warranted at least a look there.
Another young player who's been playing really well for Anaheim this year, and of course that's Max Comtois. He has 8 goals on the season already with 13 points. Where in his game has really stepped up this season, CJ?
Really, it's going to be his execution on offense. He has still a lot of issues defensively, and he has ever since he came up to the NHL. But he's one of the few Ducks shooters that I would say that actually looks to put the puck on net whenever possible. There's a big problem with a lot of the Ducks forwards. They'll try to overthink these. We see this with Troy Terry, another one of the Ducks young guys. Troy Terry has some great offensive instincts, but he overthinks like all the plays all the time, and he could have so many more shots, but he always tries to make that extra pass. Comtois, that's not an issue. Comtois, you get the puck on a stick, and if he's anywhere the net, he's firing it on net. And we saw that a little bit last season, and his shooting percentage was pretty low and kind of reflected that, being a little bit stink-bitten, a little bit of not great finishing talent, kind of a combination of all these factors. This season, the puck is just going in for him, where he's had a couple fortunate goals, but you know what? In order to get those fortunate goals, you have to put the puck on net. You have to play in the offensive zone. And he has been, I think, really good as a trigger man, and something that Raquel used to be a lot better at being a trigger man. And I think given the right centers, and I think Comtois has played with some decent centers. I know he's played with Lundestrom. Isaac Lundestrom has been a lot better lately. I know Comtois had some time with Ryan Getzlaf. And as long as he gets the puck in a position to shoot, he's going to do it, and we're starting to see it go on net this year.
My boy Max, yeah. I mean, I agree. The snake bitten part has haunted him a little bit as far as shooting percentage. 2 seasons ago at San Diego, he was shooting as high as 30% shooting percentage, which is ridiculous. And even last season, at times, it was hovering around 20%, which is quite high. But that's the AHL and the NHL. Something that he also does is he creates his own luck. He's not afraid to get down and dirty. He's one of those players that I could see being maybe a little bit of Nick Delorier in him, where he's not afraid to get in a scrap. He's big-bodied. He could get in there, get to the dirty parts of the ice easily.
Maybe.
Yeah, he's definitely not afraid to stick up for his teammates.
With those guys like Zegras, Comtois, and maybe some of the other young players now moving up in that top 9, the Ducks kind of, obviously with the way the season is going, are in a bit of a sell-off kind of mood. They've already placed Henrique on waivers. Is this the year where they trade one of the finest Ducks to ever wear the orange and green and move Ryan Getzlaf to maybe a contender?
I highly doubt it. Ryan Getzlaf has stated multiple times that he wants to retire a Duck. He wants to be a Duck for life. And the only way he would consider going to another team is if Bob Murray specifically asked him. But Ryan Getzlaf has built up so much goodwill in the organization. I don't necessarily think this is a hot take anymore. I personally believe Ryan Getzlaf is the greatest Duck of all time, even over Teemu Selanne, mostly because Teemu has his history with Winnipeg, San Jose, Colorado, a couple of the others. But Ryan Getzlaf, career Duck, career points leader, a career assist leader. He is he's one of the greatest Ducks of all time, regardless of where you position him, right? And he is a legend. His 15 is going to be hanging up in the rafters. And so at this point, it's his destiny, I think. I think at this point, if he wants to leave, he'll leave. If he wants to retire a Duck, he's going to retire. I wouldn't think it would be out of the question if Bob Murray went to him and approached him and said, hey, would you be interested in going to perhaps this contender to probably try and win a cup? And that could certainly be the case, but I find it hard to believe that he would truly seriously consider it.
Yeah, the only way he'd consider it is if he takes some kind of pay cut, which right now he's making $8+ million. He's going to have to take a pay cut if he's going to stick around with the Ducks, just based on productivity alone. But you're right, the goodwill he's built around Orange County, him with Lyra Doderline last year, the 21st Duck, the goodwill he brings up every season. He's one of the most beloved Ducks, if not the most beloved Duck in history. So you got to think about that. What else he brings to the game? He is the team's captain. He is, for all intents and purposes, the heart and soul of your team. It would be hard-pressed to trade him just for that alone. So he'd be looking at a pay cut if he's going to retire a Duck, which he might be okay with, I think.
Well, he's going to, and here's the thing, though. He'll take a pay cut wherever.
Yeah.
I mean, he's certainly every team recognizes that he's not worth the $8 million anymore. And that's beside the point. We all knew that he wasn't going to be worth the $8+ million when he signed this deal. It was an 8-year max deal. We were paying him for his prime years. We got plenty of prime years out of Ryan Getzlaf. The contract was absolutely worth it given the production that he gave. And you know what? That's just what happens when you sign, 30, 31-year-old, or 29-year-old superstars and you give them these big deals. Every single person knows that the age decline is going to hit and they're not going to be worth their contract anymore. And that's really not the point. The point is that they're paying him and valuing him for all his history with the franchise. So he knows, and I'm sure he knows, that he's going to have to take a pay cut wherever it is, whether it's with the Ducks or someone else. I think it's just going to be a matter of, since this is the final year of his contract, if the Ducks can offer him something that he considers fair. Right. And given what the Ducks, see in Ryan Getzlaf and the responsibilities they give him, I'd be shocked if they weren't willing to give him that bare minimum a fair offer.
We don't know with this management right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With this management and Bob Murray, what would you guys like to happen? Jason?
Well, what I like to happen or what I think would happen?
Well, let's go with what would you like to happen? What would you like to happen with Bob Murray and some of these guys?
Bob Murray has been around for ages. Mm-hmm. The game might be maybe it's time to move on from Bob Murray. Him trying to convince the fans that things are going okay. Him trying to convince the fans that this is a playoff caliber team. Him using the word that we've all come to deride right now, a retooling. it's not a retool anymore. When you lose 7 consecutive games, it is not a retool. When you bench Trevor Zegras the way he has, it's not a retooling. When you mismanage the players moving up and down from San Diego, it is not a retool. It should be a rebuild at this point. And the sooner the Ducks realize this, the sooner they can move on from some of these veterans and move on, frankly, from GM Bob Murray.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'll even be more forceful than you, Jason. It's time for him to go.
Mine was yesterday. I had my rant
this.
Yesterday.
Yes, perfect. I was just thinking about this literally yesterday, and I tweeted it out where I was trying to think of the last truly consequential impact move that Bob Murray made for the Anaheim Ducks, and not through the draft specifically, like trade or free agent signing, a signing or a trade that actually truly either improved the team now or gave them futures that will significantly impact the team later. And honestly, the only one I could think of recently was trading for Adam Henrique, which created another problem in the defensive core, right? But that's beside the point. But trading for Adam Henrique was the last actually non-marginal impact acquisition that Bob Murray made. Everything else has been literally shuffling deck chairs. Mm-hmm. And when you go that long, when you are clearly on this downward spiral, when you refuse to sell your current good assets who have that to quicken the rebuild, to get back to contention quicker. I'm talking Josh Manson, Ricard Raquel, Jakob Silfverberg, Adam Henrique, before the contract was signed or in the first year of the contract, all of that stuff. You just get to a point where you think that Bob Murray may not necessarily have a plan, or if he's deluding himself. So to me, there's one of two things that are going on here. Either A, Bob Murray genuinely thinks that this team should be in the playoffs, which raises a ton of questions about how he can evaluate a modern hockey team, if he can even do a rebuild properly. I think he's a fine general manager if you're a team in contention, but if you're going to rebuild, that's a completely different story. Or B, he knows they're not contenders and he's straight up lying to the fan base saying that we're tired of losing, we want to win. Neither of those are a good look for him, and he's basically backed himself into a corner, either with the fans, players, whoever, whatever you want to do. But at this point, it's pretty clear that at least with regards to the fan base, I think he's pretty much lost their trust.
Oh, he's so lucky there's no fans facing him right now. He's lucky there's no fans in the stands at the Ponda.
Yep. Because
they would be chanting "Fire Bob" or something along those lines, especially the last couple of weeks. Last year.
Yeah, and if you don't think, sorry, I was just going to say, if you don't think Anaheim would do that, they were doing that with Carlisle during the worst, before Carlisle was fired, there were straight up chants saying fire Carlisle. They would definitely do that for Bob Murray. Anaheim fans can get a little more rowdy than you might think.
Oh, I remember that. I remember that loud and clear. There was a half dozen trades made at the deadline, and the only one that I actually liked was trading Andre Kasha because, hey, at least they got a first rounder out of him. For a while, I was saying if they're going to trade him, they might get a second rounder. Okay, first round. Hey, that's actually kind of decent. They got Jacob Perreault out of that, and Perreault's been pretty good so far for the goals. So at least that one's been okay for now. But,
Again, you can find Jason on Twitter at StimpyJD, and you can find CJ on Twitter at CJ Woodling. You know what, guys? I know you guys want to kick Bob Murray out. I'm going to have to kick you guys both out right now.
You know what? Fair. That's all right.
That's fair.
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us on. Really appreciate it.
I want to thank our guests this week. In Trending Now, Laura had some good stuff to say about Binnington. She wasn't thrilled about him with that temper tantrum as well, much like I did. And Ian really telling us why they went with Ducharme at this moment and letting go a great coach in Claude Julien. So hopefully he can land on his feet. Also, CJ and Jason talking about the Ducks. Wow, that was a great talk. I enjoyed it. Hopefully they don't move on with Getzlaf and he does retire one of the Ducks. But hey, you know what? Their prospects and some of those kids like Zegras actually look like the future might be pretty bright over there. Our shout out this week is to Jason Wu. He's been a great friend of mine, and he's a huge and proud supporter of our podcast, and of course a big St. Louis Blues fan. So I hope he enjoys the talk about Binnington, and I know I'll talk to him later on this week exactly about that. He'll enjoy this episode. Remember, you can always follow us on our podcast. Every week, Wednesday, we have new episodes. So check us out. And make sure you click on those 3 dots in your podcasting app and share this episode with 3 hockey fans you know. Follow us on social media. We're on Twitter at Sublime Sports, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, you name it. Check us out, Sublime Sports. Our website, of course. If you haven't gone there yet, SublimeSports.com. Click on episodes, and you can see all our past episodes. We've been doing this for 6 seasons, over 7 years. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Please subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcasts out there. And thank you, everyone. And to every one of our listeners, I'm giving you a virtual hug. Stay healthy, listen, be yourself, and stay strong.